Hello, welcome to Such Nice Work Podcast. I'm Kendra. You can find me on Ravelry as Kendra KS. You can also find me on Etsy as Cutesy Poo Creations, and you can also find me, my blog, cutesypoocreations.blogspot.com, and on YouTube as Cutesy Poo Creations. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And today I have a lot of stuff to talk about, I think. First of all, I'll talk about my background. You can see there's the happy birthday banner for my number 3. Had his first birthday on the 26th. It's kind of bad if I have to think about the date, huh? 26th. He is now 1. And like I kind of mentioned last week, once the banner goes up, it stays up for a little while. We'll see if it stays up till my birthday on the 25th of December. But it'll probably come down because I think there's going to be some more decorations that are going to need to take up that space. With that in mind, from what I hear everywhere, the countdown to my birthday has begun. It is so nice every year. People can remember how many shopping days till my birthday because the media is constantly reminding us how many shopping days until the 25th of December. Here at my house, we celebrate Christmas on the 24th and my birthday on the 25th. Something that my parents kind of started when I was little, and I have carried on. Works out pretty good. It also means that with things like working on Christmas and stuff, we aren't necessarily opposed, and that means holiday pay, and that is always a good thing. So, what am I wearing today? Well, today I am wearing this lovely headband that I made this week. I call it my Spiderweb Happy Accident headband because it's a happy accident that I made myself a headband. It was not meant to be a headband. I was trying to make, there we go. I was trying to make this buttoned spiderweb scarf from redheart.com. It's a pattern that was designed by Tracy Barrett. And, I was going to make it so I could wear it to the Lighted Horse Parade on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. But my yarn broke. And I'll show you the yarn. So this yarn is for really, really deep stash. I got this yarn when I was living in Weaverville from the LYS that was there at the time called the Golden Needles. I'm sure they're not there anymore. Though maybe you are, I don't know. But they sold yarn and knives because they said he needed something for the men and the women. But I bought this skein of yarn not to use for yarny purposes, but I made some wall hangings, and I got fat quarters of like fall colored fabric. I don't know what my wall hanging is. If I find it, I will show you. It's very pretty. I like it. But I had gotten some fabric from the local quilt store, and I made these leaf blocks, and I made wall hangings to thank the women that had thrown my wedding shower. And I needed to put stems on the leaves, and I was unhappy with every other option I tried, so I found this yarn to make little stems, and I just sewed them on. And I was having the hardest time all week. I've been trying to remember what this yarn is called. So I could tell you. I knew it was Red Heart, and then last night while I was writing show notes, I went, oh, Red Heart Symphony, and I looked it up on Ravelry, and this is the yarn. I don't remember what color it is exactly, and I was having a hard time telling from the pictures, but Red Heart Symphony has been discontinued, so it doesn't matter. But it's very soft. I've made, in addition to those little bits that I put, which I hardly used any, I also made a cowl for my sister for her birthday last year. And, yeah, otherwise, this is gilt yarn. It just sits in my drawer, and I feel guilty that it's not being used. So I'm trying to use it. And I wanted to make myself the scarf with the button, because I had a big button I wanted to use, and I wanted to use up a bunch of this, which I didn't. So maybe in the coming months, this will become something else. But, anyways, I was making the scarf, and it's like a tangle in it. What happened is I was working on it at night, and my son woke up, and I left my project without marking where I was. And when I came back to it, I must have picked the wrong spot. And I could tell that the pattern wasn't right. So I was frogging. This yarn does not frog. It apparently just knots because it's got all, all the fuzzy bits. So, it knotted. And then I was going to I tried hooking the yarn back on and it just wasn't working. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just have to scrap this. But I put a lot of work into it and I really liked the pattern. So I was seeing what other things I could do. Was it long enough? Maybe I could make it a really tight neck warmer. And I held it over my head and it was just the right length that if I put a little bit of decreases in the bottom, it would be a headband. And I have been wanting to make myself a headband, well, more like an ear covering, for months. I keep looking at patterns, and I haven't been happy with anything I found. And by happy accident, I made one that I love. And I love how it kind of covers my little ears. And I was telling my hubby, it's kind of like someone's gently squeezing my head, which apparently I have found is incredibly comfortable and comforting. I wore this to the horse parade, and I found it very cozy. And it doesn't, with the yarn I used, it doesn't really block sound, which is nice. Because sometimes I feel like when I wear things over my ears, it's too muffly, and I don't like that. But my head is very warm, so that's good. And I've been wearing it a lot. So I'm going to have to make myself some more of these, or similar type items. Now that I know what dimensions I like, I can play around with it. But yeah, so I'll have to make some more stuff with that. I have some more gilt yarn, too. Stuff that's been lingering with no real purpose, and yeah, so I need to get that stuff out of stash. So moving on to my squeaky wheels, my old squeaky wheels for last week in my life. Last week, if you watched, you will remember that I was having a week where I was sucking at life, and for a lot of this week I thought I was doing better and sucking a little less. And then as I was kind of sitting down to start writing show notes and thinking about my week, I don't know. I sucked a little more than I realized. But, I guess that's just life. I felt better, though, most of the week. It was more of a retrospect thing. And then a little bit of being overwhelmed with the number of things that need to get done. I made my list of things to do. And I have a lot of crafting that needs to be done. Not just for fun. I have some commissions that are coming up. And I have a craft show on Saturday. Which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, there's just a lot going on, and that's just my personal stuff. That's not even talking about things with my kids and my husband and trying to do family stuff and trying to make the house livable, which I don't know. Again, it looks so clean behind me, but you can't see all the junk on the floor. But it is nice. This does require me to clean the couch off on Tuesdays and the little bit of kitchen counter you can see. Though sometimes that just gets moved to where you can't see it. But that has been one good thing about podcasting, is it has made me have to at least clean up a small space on a particular given day. I'm very bad with like setting a schedule and then doing things at a certain time on a certain day. Which is only funny because my husband functions best when he knows what is expected at a given time on a given day. And I probably do function better that way. I'm just very bad at coming up with that schedule for myself. I'm better at rushing to deadlines and squeezing things in where I can and following my whims, of which there are many. So my old squeaky wheels that I had for my week where I sucked at life, to hopefully try and suck at life a little less, was to deal with some unpleasant emails that I needed to write to a company that I was going to start taking an introduction to midwifery course. And I was going to do it online, and it was going to be great. And so far, I have been very unhappy. All of my interactions have been long and drawn out, and maybe it will get better. I am hopeful it will get better because they say that they are redoing the program and they're like switching over from a paper format to an online format. I was kind of looking forward to the paper format, but online format will be fine. So I emailed her last night. Another good thing about podcasting, I probably would have continued to put it off, but I knew I had to tell you all whether I did or not. So I did it, and I sent her an email, and I've yet to get a response, which is not surprising. And really, it wouldn't probably have done me any good to email her any sooner, because with the holiday weekend here in the States, it's not like people were dealing with work stuff. So yeah, we'll see how long it takes for them to sort things out and tell me what's going on. I'll keep you posted. I also needed to balance my checkbook, which I did, and I paid bills, and hopefully everything is covered for right now. And then I need to work on December's bills here, probably this weekend, because my husband has days off, and that's when he gets paid. And, yeah. So yeah, I will get that taken care of here this week. My crafty squeaky wheel for the week was to get my lighted horse parade donation done, which I did. And it was super duper cute, and you'll see that too. And I wanted to list some stuff on Etsy. I did not put up everything I had showed on the podcast, mostly because it just was taking a while, and it looked like my shop was filling up, and it's not like I have that much traffic, so whatever. And I was going to take some things to consign, but then when I was talking things over with my husband, we were talking about my craft show this weekend, and I decided that it would be better to just keep all of the crocheted bits with me, at least for this weekend, and then I will take some of those to the consignment places later. I might drop some cards off this week if I go that direction, because it's the next town over. But if not, I don't really think it's going to be worth the gas to take things up this weekend. So yes, so I completed that squeaky wheel. I consider, except the stuff was postponed, but stuff was completed. So my new squeaky wheels, what's going on in my head that I just can't, need to get done? In my life, I talked last week about how I was going to start trying to get back onto like the Fly Lady system, or my version thereof, because it helps me recalibrate and like refocus on not sucking at life. I really just don't have any better way to explain it. Hopefully you understand what that means and you just feel like you suck at life. It's not that like I feel bad about myself. I just feel like I'm not really accomplishing what needs to get done. And clearly I'm not the only person that feels that way. I don't know if everybody else thinks I'm not getting things done. Well, I'm sure people in my house probably think that. But, yeah, to the outside world, I don't know what it appears like. So, this week I'm going to try to, what Fly Lady calls, get dressed to shoes. Which means dressed from my heads all the way to my feet, which are currently wearing shoes, though you can't see them. And I want to try and do that within the first 15 minutes I get up. It is impractical to get out of bed and just get dressed with my life. Because I usually don't wake up until a child awakens me. It is better when I get up before them, but frequently I wake them up by getting up. My son still co-sleeps, and yeah. So we'll see how that all works out. So I'm going to try and get up and maybe do my initial, like, check email, make sure my husband didn't leave me any notes during the night while he was at work, that sort of thing. And then get dressed right away, because then I have less of an excuse to not be productive. And also I want to try and make sure the kids are getting dressed into like clothes for the day after breakfast. I try to have them wear their footy pajamas through breakfast, because then when breakfast gets all over their clothes, those clothes can go into the wash, which I need to do more wash this week. But yeah, they've been wearing their footy pajamas all day, mostly because it's been cold, which is great, except I think there's a connection between them being in bad moods and them wearing pajamas all day. So we're going to try and do a bit more getting dressed to shoes, though they won't wear shoes in the house, but to like socks or booties or whatever. So yeah, that's my life goal for this week. My crafty goal is on Saturday, December 6th, I am doing the Handmade Farmers Market in Marysville, which is about half an hour away. I think it's the next town over. I guess it's technically like 2 or 3 towns over, but we do a lot of stuff in Marysville. It's where the library that we frequent is, and my daughter goes to dance there, and we make a lot of trips. That's a lot of gas. But it's going to be at the Armory, so if you live anywhere remotely near me and are interested in coming to see me or whatever, yeah, there's going to be a craft show from 10 to 4. I decided that I was not going to make anything new for this show, but we'll see. I'm starting to think. I sold a couple of my bigger ticket items at the show in Lawrence, and they were things that people tended to be kind of drawn to. So maybe I'll whip something up. Yeah, it's Tuesday. I have other things to do, but we'll see. I think I might. I'm considering it heavily. So my crafty goal is to get everything together for the show so that I can get it set up and everything, going well. I also need to make sure that I kind of stay on top of things so I can tear down quickly, because the fire department in our town is having a fish and nut fry Saturday night, and my husband is supposed to go and help with that. And he was on the books first, but then I decided to do this craft show. So I need to make sure that I am home so that I can take the children's, so that he can go and do his fireman thing. Because we have a volunteer fire department. And yes, that's that. So moving on to I'm proud of yous. And this week, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you. I hope that you are proud of you too. Or me, I'm proud of me. I got lots done this week. But first off, there are 2 things that I realized this week from all my finished objects that I really need to pay attention to. I need to check the hook size I'm using every single time I pick it back up, because most of my hooks came from a set, and so they are all varying shades of blue. That is not helpful when I'm just looking at it to feel like, is this the right hook? Well, if H and I are blue, like a medium blue, and then a slightly darker shade of blue, it may look like I'm using the right hook, and I'm not. And then things don't work right because the gauge is off, and it's more that it's annoying when I realize, an hour later that I've been doing the wrong hook. Or in the case of the owl mitts, I finish a mitt, try it on, and realize, why is this so much bigger? Oh, because I used the wrong hook to finish it. And that's also why it was harder, because the yarn preferred the smaller hook. I also learned that when I have skeins that are shaped like this, like the little, I don't know what you call them, they're like oblong, that those I need to roll into balls. I don't have a ball winder. I don't know that I would really use one, like to make the cute little cakes. I like hand-rolled balls. I think they're pretty. It also helps because when I decide to frog things, I change my mind a lot, or I mess up a lot. When I frog, it's just easy to roll it back on the ball that it came out of. But I've had a lot of yarn barf this week. So much so, I realized that, you can tell when you're saying a word a lot because suddenly your kids start saying it. I've clearly said yarn barf a lot of times this week because my daughter has started walking up to me and going, oh, is that yarn barf? Or taking the yarn when her brothers are playing with it and going, don't play with mom's yarn, it's going to turn into yarn barf. It may just be that it's fun to say barf, which it kind of is. But, yeah, clearly I've been saying yarn barf a lot because I've created a lot of yarn barf all by my own laziness. I kind of knew I needed to roll balls if I was going to use those kind of skeins, but I wanted to jump in right away, and so I did, and then I ended up spending a whole lot of time that I could have spent crafting on doing yarn barf. So yes, yarn barf is a big waste of time. So what have I finished and am I proud of? Well, the first thing is the owl mitts for my niece. I was using this pattern by Erica Ward. It's a free pattern on Ravelry for some crocheted owl mitts. And I made them out of Yarn Bee Andes alpaca in the color sable. And yeah. Oh. Maybe that's why these turned out a different size. Here it says that I used a hook size G on my notes that I wrote last week. I used an H. I think H is what the pattern called for. Maybe that's why they fit a little different. Anyways, I had initially messed up and used an I on one of them, and that was way too big. So, let me show you what they look like. Here we go. They look like this. And they're all like toasty and warm, and I think that she will like them. And the owls are very subtle, but they're there. I'm considering putting beads for the eyes, but I think that this might be more useful for her to not have the beads on them. She's 19, so the chances that she'll, mess them up, kind of likely. She works with kids a lot, too, so I think that things that can get caught might not be a good idea. But I think that she will love these. And they were fun. I really liked the progression, the way that the mitt fit my hand. It fits really good, so even if I don't make the owl pattern, I think I might use this particular pattern as a base to make other fingerless mitts for myself, because, yeah, the decreases and increases were at the right sizes for my hands, because, you know, it's not like a one-size-fits-all thing when it comes to that. When you find something that works, why go with something else, right? So I'll play with that some more. Yeah, at another time. The next thing that I finished was, well, this isn't in order, but the next thing that I finished was the perfect pony that I made for the Light Horse Parade. Yeah, it was fun. It got to go, I took in some of my cards, and I took in that pony for the raffle. All of the people that ride horses in the horse parade afterward come down to the firehouse, have soup, and we do a raffle, and they can win things. I mean, I'm sure they would have rather won the giant bags of horse feed, but yeah, the horse went to a man in probably his 50s. But he said that he has a granddaughter, so he might be, I'm assuming it will be under somebody's tree. The cool thing is, though, when I took it, so it was on the table, I got a commission that somebody else wants one. So I am going to work on that here in this next week, hopefully, and get that put together. So it was good for advertising to take that, and some people got to see it, and everyone thought it was cute, and the number of little kids that went by and, like, pet the pony was really funny. So yes, that is made using the Perfect Pony pattern by Jennifer Down Under, which is a free pattern you can find on Ravelry. I also completed my Spiderweb Happy Accident headband. Like I said before, I used Red Heart Symphony from way deep stash. And I had started out using the Button Spiderweb Scarf by Tracy Barrett, which is a free pattern on redheart.com. It's a very pretty pattern. You can't really see with my hair, and I'm not going to take it off because my hair is messy underneath. My daughter informed me this morning that my hair looked funny. Then I said, why? And she said, because it's all flippy in the back. But for the front, it's not terrible. And, of course, I can't see the back of my hair. But she was a little concerned where my curls were. And I said it was because I brushed my hair without gel on them today. So, yeah. Funny hair. Warm headband. And I also finished what's in this bag. I finished a test crochet that I started this week. But I don't know if I can show it to you. I didn't really clear that with her yet. So when I can, you'll see what's in this bag. I actually need to take pictures today because we have sun. I finished it yesterday, but it was overcast all day, or every time that I had an opportunity, and so I couldn't take pictures. So I'll take pictures of this today, and then that'll be done, and it will end up being a Christmas present for one of my sisters, which is kind of cool. It was my first time test crocheting for somebody. And that was fun too. I used Lion Brand Heartland Tweed and Black Canyon Tweed, which you will see the yarn again later. So, I also completed an entire hat made out of Red Heart, Heart and Soul in the color Faded Denim. I thought it looked kind of Christmassy. I was watching Bunnyfish Crafts a while ago, and she was making some socks, and she was using this particular yarn in the Christmas colorway, and I remembered I had this yarn in stash, and the colors of it were very wintry to me. So I was actually making a hat, which I thought I was going to wear to the horse parade. But I didn't need to, because I ended up with a headband, which I wore instead. But, yeah, so I made the whole hat. This is what the hat looks like, because after I made it, I decided I didn't like the pattern with the yarn. I was holding the yarn double to make it like a sport weight, but I was not happy. I think the pattern I was using actually should have been for a slightly lighter yarn. Though the picture looked heavier. I think the picture, or the yarn, the pattern might have been only good for the specific yarn. Though actually, the yarn kind of looks a little like this. So maybe I'll try again. I don't know. But yeah, I frogged it, but I made it the other night. I realized that when I'm feeling overwhelmed, rather than deal with all of the numerous projects that I should be finishing because I have a big long list, it's way more fun to start something new. So I start chaining and start on something new, which is probably not the most practical solution, but it's fun. Till I end up with a million whips and nothing done, and yeah. Then I feel bad because I'm not finishing the things I should. Or maybe I should be doing something more productive and not crocheting. But if I'm sitting in the chair crocheting, usually my kids are happy that I'm at least in the room. If I leave the room to do something else, then the fussing starts. So, the other thing I completed is I made thank you notes for number 3's luau. Here, I'll show you. I made 18 of them. So they look like this. They say thank you. And then the back has my usual thing. But I added to it. So this is handcrafted in Barnes, Kansas by Cutesy Poo Creations. And it has all my info. And then these are the little envelopes that go with it. They say hello. And they have a little heart. And they're hand stamped and hand inked. So these will go out to all of our friends and relations. You know, like Rabbit and Winnie the Pooh. Many friends and relations. But it will go off to them, thanking people for sending gifts and coming to the luau. So hopefully this week I will work on filling these in. But hey, making the cards was a step in the right direction. And I've written 2 of them. 2 out of 18. That's not bad. That's like a 9th. 1/9 is completed. So hopefully next week I'll have more than a 9th done. So moving on to will I procrastinate or will I prioritize? If you know me, you can guess which is going to happen. But yes, so number 1, or the first thing we're going to talk about. So the other day, I've been making a nightcap for my son, for my number 2. And I was using the nasturtium pattern by Caitlin Pensick. Now, it was taking a little while because I started it, and then, because it got really cold, and then it got a little warmer, so I stopped working on it and started working on other things, and it got really, really cold again. But, in the process, I was busy with other things that had time constraints, so I couldn't finish his hat. Well, he fell in love with a different hat. My sister had sent some hats that a woman that she worked with crocheted. She sent them like a year and a half ago, maybe. And one she sent was an owl hat for my daughter, and she sent a SpongeBob hat for my son. I can't stand SpongeBob at all. Yeah, I know lots of people like him, but he kind of makes me wish I was stoned. He's stoner TV. That's what he is to me. Which I'm fairly certain he was not originally planned as a children's program. Kind of reminds me of watching something, well, I mean, it's not quite to the extreme, but something like Ren and Stimpy, which also made me wish I was stoned. Even as a kid, that's probably not a good thing. But yeah, Ren and Stimpy, it's a much better show. Powdered Toast Man. Did any of you watch Ren and Stimpy and Powdered Toast Man? Or Log? He's made out of wood. He's better than that. He's good. That's funny. I haven't thought about Log in a really long time. Which is extra funny because I have a whole stack of logs over there right now, which are now amusing to me. Maybe that's what I should wrap up for Christmas for my children, logs. Well, my husband was saying that for Christmas I would just get heat because we paid for a wood stove. And then I just get to be warm, which would be nice, but I think we'll have to think up something else too. But yes, anyways, my husband, wood. Actually, this is all connected. So, my son decided he liked the SpongeBob hat. I couldn't stand it. I convinced him that we would cut the bumpy parts off because actually it had like a nose, which is kind of weird and phallic. And when he would sleep, sometimes he would turn the hat around and there'd be this bump under his head, and I didn't like that. So anyways, we cut the nose off and the little tie, and it had little like shirt tail thingies, so it looked like a neck of a shirt. It was very cute if you like SpongeBob, but the hat kind of drove me crazy. So we cut the pieces off. And anyways, he had taken to calling it his Bumblebee to begin with. And he liked bringing his Bumblebee to bed. And that was cool. And so now he has a hat he likes. And I think it's adorable now. And it doesn't drive me crazy. So I'm less concerned about making him a nightcap. So I was talking to my husband. And I was asking him what he would want me to make him for Christmas. If he was in need of any outdoor items. You know, hats, scarves, mittens. I asked if he wanted some convertible mittens to wear when he was driving to work or something like that. And he said that actually what he wanted was something to cover his ears when he was out cutting wood for the stove. That he, and working in the yard and stuff when it's cold. Because it's too warm if he's wearing a hat. He needs to have like the steam escape from his head. But his ears get all cold. And so he's asking about it. And so I ran over and I was like, how about this? Does this work? Because this is the head, or like the ribbing that I had made. And I had a little bit more, but I frogged some to make it just be the ribbing for the hat that I made for my son. And so I tried it on my husband, and he actually said he would like it a little shorter. So I think that when I slip stitch it together, I'll just overlap it a little. And And then I'm going to work in the round now because it's not going to have a button on it, which is fine. But I am making a headband slash ear cover slash hat minus like a yarmulke's worth of space. Yeah, for him to wear when he's outside working. And I had some of this Williamsburg print from Super Saver stuff from a vest that I had made. My first, like, big thing that was not a stuffy. Anyways, I made myself, like, a house vest last year when I started crocheting. And yes, I had leftover Williamsburg print. So I think I'm going to put this together and make this headband thing for him. So, I'm working on that. I also worked on the water polo helmet for my nephew. And two of them actually play water polo. And the one I was working on it for is a senior, and so he won't be playing again next year. But his brother will be. So I decided I'm going to just make them matching water polo helmets. So I'm using, this is a paid-for pattern from the Crooked Hook. It's called the Aviator. And ooh, it looks like that. So I'm using that as kind of a base, and then I am adding some decorations to it. So this is what the hat looks like. So it's like a little water polo hat. And then last night I made the ear protector bits that are going to get sewn on to each side. And I made the two of them for the hat. And then I'm going to put his number like on the ears. So there's going to be a little red 8 on each of them. And both of my nephews are number 8. So I'm actually going to make two identical hats. So last night I started on the one for my other nephew. While I was in bed watching Gilmore Girls, I made the other set of ear protection. And these are using Red Heart Super Saver in cherry red and white, and I'm holding it double so that it will act like, what double worsted is, like a bulky, super bulky. Anyways, it's turning out to be like a really nice dense fabric, which will be good with the ears, especially because when I stuff it, you won't see it, even though I'm using a decent-sized hook. What am I using? Now, see, this says I was using a K, because I think I used an I last night. See, I'm very bad. My hook things are all messed up right now. Oh, that's right. I used the K for the base of the hat, and that's right. But then when I made the little ear thingies, I made them with a smaller hook, so that way they'd be denser, so when I stuff it a little, it won't stick out, and also they'll be a little smaller and fit better. See? If I think about it long enough, I realize where my brain was going, or should have been. Anyways. So yes, I am working on the water polo helmets. I think they will be super cute. Even if the boys don't like it, I think my sisters will. And the other day, we went to Manhattan to do some shopping. Not Black Friday shopping, but actually we went on Wednesday. We went to do some food shopping and stuff. But that was just the day that worked in our life to go. And so in the car on the way there, I worked on my giant scarf that I am making for my husband's uncle that has the whole 2014 season. And when I started, they hadn't won the World Series. But now that they have, yay, it's more of like a celebratory scarf. So, here it is. It's going to be incredibly long. What, like 160, 162? Anyways. So that is the marker that shows you where I was the last time I showed it to you. And now I am up here. So my husband was asking me in the car. I had been working on it, and we pulled into a parking lot so I could nurse. And he was asking how far along I was in the scarf, and I said, I don't know, because I have this lovely little list that I have made up that I converted all of the games into what colors they were supposed to be. And I had marked where I was. I was on the where the line was the last time I had put the marker in, and then, I can count how many rows from there. And so he was counting, and wherever I am, I'm at the All-Star break. So, we'll see. I was thinking that maybe I should take a break right now and weave in all the ends and then finish the scarf. Because then I, would have fewer ends at the end. Take an all-star break myself. So, we'll see if that happens or if I decide it's just more fun to work on the scarf, which clearly it's more fun to work on the scarf. I'm using a J hook for this, and J is really my preferred hook. Like, the J just feels good. In part, though, it might be the hook. I have a a tulip, like a soft grip hook for my J as opposed to the other ones. I am hoping that with Christmas or birthday money, I'm going to get myself an entire set of the tulip, the soft handles, or maybe just get a few of each in my favorite sizes. I need to get more hooks in general, because I think if I had dedicated hooks in the project bags, I would stop messing up what hook size I'm using. But right now, I just don't have that happening. And every time I go to look at hooks, I don't like the Susan Bates hooks. I have a couple of the bigger sizes in Susan Bates, and I don't like the way they work. And I am not super enthused with the ones that I saw at Hobby Lobby last time I went. So I might just need to order online and get what I want. Which is either the tulip ones, but they're a little more expensive, or even, I like the Crochet Dude hooks. Quite possibly just because they're the ones I learned on, that I like their hook. But I don't like how Susan Bates is so, like, pointy. I get it stuck on things. So, yeah. So, I think it's the last thing that I'm deciding if I will procrastinate or prioritize it, is I am working on some fingerless knits that will potentially be convertible for my other sister, the one that is not getting my mystery crocheting. And I am using Lion Brand Heartland Tweed in Black Canyon Tweed and hook size H. I have it written down, and the hook is even attached. See, so I know I am using, yes, H. It's the right one. So this is how far I am. I'm to the thumb on my first one. Let's try it on. So it's turning out nice. I'm very happy with, I really like this yarn. I think that this yarn could be really versatile, and depending what you made, it would definitely make a nice man's scarf too, I think. The blue is a little tealy for some guys, but I think it's a nice option. I like tweed. I think it's pretty. But yeah, and I also really like this gray. So I'm working on those. Those will also get done in time to go into the Foxes and Soxes hands along for the tortoise spreads. So working on that. And, as you can see, here's my hand-rolled ball, which originally was not a ball. I was pulling out of the skein, and this is one of the batches of yarn barf that I cleaned up. So moving on, who doesn't love a good nap? I love napping. And I love planning needle-adjacent projects because I like the feeling of potential progress. Yeah, and if they're still needle adjacent, I haven't failed at them yet. I haven't messed them up in any way. I haven't not gotten them done on time. And 3 of the things that are needle adjacent for me are going to bring in revenue. Yay! So my first needle adjacent thing right now is the pony that I was commissioned to make at the horse parade. So I need to get that done. I told her I'd have it. I didn't really give her an exact date, but I said sometime in the next week or 2. So I need to get on that. I also have been commissioned to make a super cape and mask, 2 sets, with initials on them, kind of like my kids' Halloween costumes, for my husband's coworker. So I need to get those done before Christmas, probably on the sooner rather than later side, just because, well, she said what she wanted, so I should get on that. But we'll wait and see after the craft show on Saturday. I might already have the base capes done if I don't sell them. Otherwise, I'll just make new capes for her kids. Yeah. And other things that are needle adjacent, I still need to make the Grinch hat for my brother-in-law, number 1, and a beard hat for brother-in-law, number 2, and I'll show you yarn in a minute. And visor beanies for nephews, number 2 and 4. And I'm going to use this pattern for the visor beanie. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I don't know. It just looks like something my nephews will like, I think. Hopefully. We'll see. I don't know if it's cool to get things that are handmade by your aunt. I certainly was not the biggest fan growing up. You know, you get weird things from old people. Am I an old person now? It's kind of weird. My sisters are 14 and 16 years younger than me, or older than me. I am far removed from them in age. So I'm actually closer in age to my oldest niece than I am to my sisters. So, so yeah, I don't think I'm the old lady crocheting for them. I might just be the weird lady crocheting for them. But I think they'll at least enjoy it for a few days, whether or not they actually like wear it I don't know. But I have made them quilts that are used all over their house. My mom is always telling me that every time she goes over there, somebody's using one of my quilts. So that's cool. One year I made quilts for everybody, for all of my nieces and nephews. And that was a big undertaking. And that was, I guess my number one was born, but she was still a baby. Yeah, I have pictures of her sitting on the quilts, but she wasn't walking yet. So, yeah, it was easier to get stuff done fabric-wise. Now, sewing is hard because someone's always getting in my pieces, and the sewing machine is a lot more dangerous with hands or them stepping on the pedal and my fingers. And yeah. Anyways, so I mentioned that we had gone shopping the other day, and while we were in Manhattan, my number two kept going. Every shop, or every parking lot we pulled into, we'd go, "Is this Hobby Lobby? Is this Hobby Lobby?" Because Hobby Lobby is fun to say. And I think he likes to see what's inside the store. But mostly he just likes to say Hobby Lobby, which is where I went, because we don't have an LYS anywhere near me, really. Or at least not anywhere where I regularly go shopping. I believe there is a store east of me, but it'd be east by like an hour and a half. So anyways, so I went to Hobby Lobby, and I went to Joann's. And now we'll move on to hoarding a mountain of good intentions, because I consider all my craft supplies my mountain of good intentions, because everything has a purpose when I buy it. Even if the purpose is to be purposeless at the time, but to be used at a later date, that's still a purpose. I never buy anything if I don't think it has a use. Whether or not I get around to using the item for said purpose or any purpose at all, that remains to be seen. And given my large stash of all things crafty, it doesn't always happen. But you would assume that I would have everything I could possibly need in a stash that big of craft supplies, but I'm still light on the yarn because yarn is new. And a lot of my yarn I've bought with the intention to make particular things to sell. And that yarn I bought separately because I bought it, business, whatever. So I try not to use that for personal consumption. Or if I do, I kind of like swap it. But anyways, I had to go buy some stuff to finish out the gift list for the holidays. So I bought this skein called I Love This Chunky in the colorway Fern. And this is going to become a Grinch hat for my brother-in-law. I bought that at Hobby Lobby, and then I didn't buy anything else. So we went on Wednesday, which is the day before Thanksgiving, and they were busy putting out everything for Black Friday. But it also meant that, like, nothing was on sale. Or not nearly the amount of stuff that usually is, which is fine. But it's hard to pay for yarn when you know you can get the same thing cheaper next week. Even if I know I'm not going to go next week, it still bothers me. And a bunch of the yarn I think is just priced in a way where it's priced so that when it goes on sale, it is appropriately priced. Which I recognize that spending $4.99 for a skein of yarn is not at all crazy. But it is crazy if I know I can get it for less. And I did get this on sale. I think I always use a coupon, but it was cheaper than that. But yeah, so I wasn't really happy. And so then we went to Joann's, and I just wasn't really happy with their selection. I don't know if it's that they don't carry my taste or what. And you know how every store carries a slightly different assortment of things. But yeah, so I found stuff that would work. At Joann's is where I got the 2 balls of Lion Brand Heartland Tweed in the Black Canyon Tweed, which you have seen from my 2 projects. I also got a skein of Premier Yarns Deborah Norville collection. This is the Chunky, or Serenity Chunky Weight, and this is in the color Majesty. And I don't know, it's kind of an icky. Like, I don't really like the color when I actually, like, pull it out and look at the yarn. But I had already bought a skein of this with the intent to sell stuff from it. Because I live about 45 minutes to an hour away from Manhattan, Kansas, which is where K-State is. And Purple Pride is big around here. So things that are purple, gray, and white, that assortment, people like. Because they like to wear the purple on game days or just because. Purple's just an awesome color. But anyways, I already had one skein of this, and I was thinking that, well, I looked on Ravelry, I was looking at the yarn, and I was looking at projects that people had made with stuff. And I'd looked at this particular ball and see what people made, and somebody had made a pair of mittens that I liked. And it actually made me like this yarn a lot more, because I liked the way the yarn worked up in the mittens. I liked this, the way that the variegation, like, came together. So I think I'm going to make a pair of those, but I didn't think one skein would be enough for that, and maybe whatever else I wanted to go with it. So I bought another skein, because I already have one, and that way it gives me options that way. So we'll see what happens with this. I haven't quite decided yet, but it's going with previous stash to hopefully turn into something wonderful. I also got 2 skeins of Lion Brand Vanna's Choice in the colorway Patchwork Gray. And it looks like this. Generally, I don't really like any of the Vanna yarns that much, but I really like the colors on this. It's got 1 ply, well, 2 plies, it looks like. There's 2 that are gray, and then it's got like this rainbow variegated ply that goes around it. So I am going to use this to make one of the visor beanies for my nephew, for one of them, because I think that he will really like that. And then the other one I think I'm just going to do in like black and gray or navy or something, because he won't wear colors. But the other one will. So I'll use colors when it's fun. And these are really the only yarns that I found that I was really, I don't know, feeling. Usually if I go somewhere and look at yarn, I'm at least seeing stuff I want for myself, but that wasn't really happening. I don't know why. So yeah, so I've added to the hoard of good intentions. Moving along, what have I been reading? Well, I'm still reading Anne of the Island with my daughter, not my son when he's awake. It's by Ellen Montgomery. It is the 3rd book in the Anne of Green Gables series. So far, I don't know. I'm not liking it as much. Excuse me. My coffee. In this book, Anne has gone off to college at Redmond. And so it's dealing with that. And they've introduced a new character named Philippa. So far, I'm not a huge fan of Philippa. And the book is turning to be all about, like, romance now. There's much less scope for imagination. And I prefer the scope for imagination parts. My favorite parts of the book are still whenever she's interacting with Davy. I like Davy. And I like reading Davy out loud. That's fun. So yeah, we're working through that. I'm not sure if we're going to read the whole series all in a row. I'll just keep reading them in a row till my kids lose interest, and then we might finish the rest of them later. I have heard that these books kind of get a little bit more, like, as Anne ages and theoretically the original reading audience got older, that the books matured, which maybe that's why it's moving towards a romance, with that stupid idea that all that, you know, older teenage girls want to read is romance. But yeah, we'll see what we end up doing. We are also listening. I'm so excited. Yesterday was December 1st, so we started listening to our audio advent calendar. We, last year, subscribed to an online audio story company called Sparkle Stories. You can find them at sparklestories.com, and they are great. Their stories are good and imaginative, and my kids actually liked it because the kids in the story homeschool. Oh, there's multiple stories put out by Sparkle Stories. We subscribed to every series that they made of Martin and Sylvia stories. So I think there were 3. Plus we have some of the audiobooks. So there were 3 of these series. Martin and Sylvia at Home, Martin and Sylvia, just Martin and Sylvia, and Martin and Sylvia More Adventures. And we liked it because it was about a brother and sister, and they actually treat each other, you know, decently. They're not perfect kids, but they're good stories. They're not, I don't know, they're not preachy. Like, they don't make you feel all I don't know, like, these are good children to make other children be good. It's just, these kids aren't, I don't know. They're the kind of kids I'd like my kids to hang out with. And the voice of the person who wrote and reads the stories. He does voices for all the characters, and they're really interesting. You can actually find them on iTunes. On iTunes, if you look up Sparkle Stories, you can listen to free stories there. And from listening to those, we subscribe to the service, and the service is cool because every week, I mean, you get charged monthly, but every week, the stories show up on your page, and there are 52 stories for every like type of story, or every collection, I guess. There's 52 of them, and they correspond with the seasons of the year. They also offer a set where you could sign up to be in the Southern Hemisphere, and so then they flip-flop the seasons so that what's happening could legitimately coincide with what's happening in your life, in your neck of the woods, which is cool. And so every week the new stories would arrive, and once you have paid for this, and you pay for the series, and once a year has passed, then they stop charging, like, you don't have to subscribe anymore, because I now own all 52 stories, and I can listen to them as many times as I want, and I can download them onto my computer, and it is great. And we have burned them onto CDs to listen to when we've gone on trips in a car that didn't have iPod capabilities and that sort of thing. So that's really cool. But anyways, I digress. The audio advent calendar was something they came up with last year, and they are 24 stories, and they had released one every day. And it's like Martin and Sylvia and their family getting ready for Christmas, the waiting and the leading up. And they do this thing where they get like envelopes every day, and they go on like an adventure, or they get a treat or something. They have some family adventure. And the stories, I think, are about 15 to 20 minutes long. And so, obviously, I have them all from last year, and I downloaded them so that way I don't have to stream them at the time and whatever. So I have a file or a folder on my computer. So every day we get to listen to our Martin and Sylvia story, and there was a printout that had a picture of Martin and Sylvia, and there's a picture for every day of the month, which maybe I'll show you next week. It shows a picture for every day, and then you color in the picture and it corresponds. So like last night's was a pie, because the story involved a pie. And it was really exciting because we did it last year, and, seeing my kids color them in. And last year, my number 2 couldn't really color it in without, like, major assistance. And he really didn't understand the concept of we're just coloring, like, this one thing. And he colored his pie, and he was so proud. He was like, Mom, look, I colored the pie! And all that he did was have color in the pie. So that was exciting. He's, 2.5? So, yeah. It was exciting to see him color inside the lines and be happy by that. So yes, now that's something for me to look forward to every night is our audio advent calendar. What I am watching on Thanksgiving Day, our family watched the movie Freebirds, which is on Netflix, which is about turkeys and time travel and going back to the first Thanksgiving to take turkeys off the menu. Kind of an odd plot. It was a decent movie. It was funny though. Like, so we're watching and I'm listening, and it's like, I think that's Owen Wilson's voice, because I wasn't looking at the screen for a little bit, and all I could picture in my head was Lightning McQueen, because we watch Cars a lot around here. And I kept picturing I knew this. So I'm like, I think that is Owen Wilson. And we looked at the end, and it was. And there was a female turkey, and I comment, I'm like, probably isn't, but that sounds a lot like Amy Poehler. And it was! So I always like it when I can guess who did the voices, because, I don't know, I'm kind of into that. So yeah, we watched Freebirds on Thanksgiving, despite the fact that we didn't, do anything else Thanksgiving-y. Rather than have a Thanksgiving feast for lunch, we had gigantic bowls of popcorn and hot chocolate, and watched a movie, and the kids went and took a nap. And I've also, this week with my kids, I watched The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, that movie, on Netflix also. And it was really good. I forgot that version, it's older. Like, that Pooh movie was made in late 70s, early 80s. Which I guess it's the Pooh that I remember growing up. And it's the most like the books. I never read the Winnie the Pooh books that much growing up, though I used to watch the show, which had, a giant everybody was dressed up in these giant stuffed costumes, and they acted out Winnie the Pooh. But I didn't read the books. But my husband did. And I don't think I had actually read the entire book till we were pregnant with number 1. And we read it to the fetus. Well, she was still, in her convenient carrying case. We would read to my belly. And mostly to ourselves. We read the entire Winnie the Pooh books. And we did the same. Every time I've been pregnant, we read the Pooh books. To either my belly / the children that were alive. So, Winnie the Pooh is special to us, but not all of the Pooh movies or Pooh books or whatever really follow the stories very closely, but the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh movie was a lot like the book. I've also been watching Netflix with the kids a lot in the evening. Right now we've been watching The Adventures of Chuck and Friends, which is about Chuck the Truck, which we have a bunch of Chuck the Truck trucks because when number 1 was little, we bought them because they were the trucks that, offended me the least at the time, where we were buying the cars. Anyways, it's funny, though, because she didn't realize they were actual characters from anything. And then she keeps going, watching the show and going, we have one of those! We have one of those! And, yeah, my kids don't really understand the whole marketing thing, because we don't have a lot of things with characters on it. Kind of on purpose, kind of just because we're cheap. But yeah, we've also been watching Clifford the Big Red Dog, of which the voices really annoy me. Usually, the voices, I feel like they match the characters. Not so much on that show. But my kids seem to like it, so whatever. I've been watching Curious George, and that's really fun. He's a good little monkey. I enjoy it. It's not, it's kids' TV. But I guess there are some nice learning aspects to it, right? Usually we watch more learning-based TV, but I don't know. My brain just hasn't been caring. I don't think theirs have either. We're taking a little bit of a break, but I think we're going to get back to more educationally based things here pretty soon. Probably after this weekend, after this craft show. Took a little break from the homeschooling thing, kind of, to start working on Cutesy Poo Creations, and I started making this podcast, which has kind of taken over our life. I don't know if it's necessarily that it takes so much time to make it. Our computer spent a lot of time uploading it, which actually last week I started compressing the file differently, and it didn't take as long, and hopefully the quality was okay. My husband said it looked fine when he watched it at work, so I think we're going to try that again, which makes it more doable. But, yeah, podcast has kind of taken over the conversation and stuff. Partially, I think, just because it's the new thing that I'm doing. It's something I can talk about that isn't just the kids, which is part of the reason why I'm doing it. I keep trying to explain to my daughter. She wants to know why she can't be on it. I was trying to explain that it's because it's not about her. Not everything in the world is. Even though I recognize that I talk about my kids a lot, I see it as I talk about them because I'm talking about me and the things that I'm doing that involve them, not necessarily that I'm talking about it for their benefit. But maybe they're watching me someday and they're going to be like, Mom did this and Mom did that. And I'd be mad because I said something about them. Whatever. That is part of the reason why I have not told any of my family members about this, because I don't want to have to censor what I'm saying to potentially not piss anybody off, because I don't really care. So, yeah. Moving along. Next, what also I've been watching have been podcasts. That's mostly what I've been watching by myself. I started watching the Sprite 966 podcast. Hi, Helen! Which would be under Helen Duffin. Yeah, Helen on YouTube. And I've been enjoying that. She is Scottish. And I have to turn the volume up when I listen to it because otherwise I can't understand it all. Do you have to do that if you are British or Scottish or whatever and you're watching American podcasts? Do you have to turn the volume up so you can understand what we are saying better? I was trying to explain this the other day that to my daughter, that it isn't that like the words aren't the same. It's just that my ears aren't used to hearing that particular accent, so I turn the volume up and then I can hear the words more clearly, which I have to do on some of the British podcasts too. But But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had, for whatever reason, I hadn't watched her yet. I don't know why. I just hadn't. And so I've watched several episodes, and I like them, and she's fun. And I wish she would podcast more often. It sounds like she's going to try and do it once a week now, which would be good, because I would like her to be part of my life once a week. That'd be fun. Some new things that I watched. I watched JB's Fiber podcast. I watched a bunch of episodes of that, and that was good. Yeah. And I also watched Two Tangled Skeins, which has 3 people on it. Most of the videos appear to have 3. I don't know. Which I think is kind of funny. But, yeah, I think I had tried watching them before when I very, very first discovered podcasts. But, I don't know. I kind of remember the name, but anyways, it kept showing up on my recommended channel, so I went to look at it, and I found it. And the way I found JB's Fiber podcast was actually kind of weird. I was reading a thread, and she commented about her, posting a podcast name if it was okay, but she wasn't going to do it till she had permission. And I was like, she has a podcast? So I went and looked at her profile. And I went and looked, which is actually funny because I probably was more likely to watch her podcast because it was like, should I say it or not, rather than if they're just going to link. I might not have clicked on it. Though I might have, because I was out of things to watch. But yeah, I enjoyed watching both of those things. And they are now probably added to my list of things to watch. The American Thanksgiving thing kind of stood in the way of my podcast watching. Because some people, they chose to hang out with their families and stuff instead of podcasting. What's up with that? What am I supposed to watch? Doesn't everybody know that they are there purely for my enjoyment? Okay, probably not. And I'm glad that everybody had a good Thanksgiving. But, and it has caused me to need to branch out, and find things to watch. There has got to be, I figure there are tons of YouTube videos lurking there that I would like to watch, but I just haven't been able to find them. I keep looking and trying to find different ways of searching. If you know some really great way to search YouTube to find quality entertainment, let me know, or how you do it. Because I just type things in the search box, and I feel like I just keep getting the same handful of things thrown back at me. So I don't know if it's because those are things that are watched a lot, and that's why they keep popping, floating to the top, or what. So I've been looking through the channel pages of people whose stuff I like. That's been the new way I've been finding stuff. But I mean, I feel like we all are watching the same things. Maybe it's because it's all that's out there. Maybe it's just because we're all watching the same things. I don't know. So anyways, moving on. Where did my screen go? I lost it. There it is. Okay. So moving on to my last thing, which is 5 things from here on the Funny Farm. The first thing was that Thanksgiving happened in the rest of the states, but in my house it was postponed. I just pulled the turkey out of the freezer this morning. It's now in the fridge. We went shopping last Wednesday, and my husband and I were talking about it on the way home, and we had yet to do anything to make our feast. My daughter was going, when are we having the feast? When are we having the feast? We hadn't done anything to make that happen, and had other things going on, and we're trying to decide what to do. And I kind of said, frankly for me, if we just skip Thanksgiving, I'd be fine. But I know that the kids think it's fun, and my husband thinks it's fun as well. I get to eat my first of my 2 holiday cracks, which is heavy whipping cream, which I love. And I have not opened either carton that is in my fridge, because once the cartons are cracked, the crack is out, and I will just eat the whipped cream, because it's delicious till it's gone. So I at least have to wait till the pies have been made for it. So we decided to wait on Thanksgiving, and we decided to wait till my husband's days off start now. He works 10 on and then 4 off, and he works nights from midnight to 8 a.m. So our schedule's a little wonky for the rest of the world, but it works good for us most of the time. But yeah, so we postponed Thanksgiving till tomorrow, maybe the next day. We'll see. It might be about the time you see this. We'll be having Thanksgiving here. So we are thankful we did not have Thanksgiving. And I am thankful for that. Boy, am I thankful for that, because I don't think it would have been fun. I keep trying to explain to people that I think that all holidays can be time shifted. They're made up days. And why stress about celebrating on a particular day if everyone's going to be stressed and unhappy? That's stupid. It is better to celebrate when you can actually be in a celebratory mood and maybe not be doing what everybody you know is doing, which is fine. Despite what everyone else will tell you, it's fine to do whatever you want. But yeah, to do it on a day when you can really enjoy it and forget what everyone else is doing and forget what everyone else has to say about it. It has been funny, though, because everything my daughter's gone to this week, everyone keeps asking, how was Thanksgiving? And she's going, we haven't had Thanksgiving. And they look at her all crazy. And she tries to explain, and, you know, it depends whether people are actually listening or care whether they like the explanation. So moving on to number 2 thing on the Funny Farm was the Lighted Horse Parade, which was on Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, every year. And it was really good. We had really nice weather. It was warm. I watched the horsey part. The horsey, not horse. Anyways, the horse part of the parade, which is the whole parade. But I watched that part. I didn't really go uptown to look at the shops and stuff. I just, because I was working at the serving the soup, and then I went back to serve the soup. But I did run uptown to watch the horse part. And when I went up, I didn't grab my jacket. So I had on a jean jacket with like a short sleeve polo shirt, and I was wearing pants and my lovely headband. But yeah, I didn't have a heavy jacket on at all, and I was fine. Which I have had years where I have been in multiple layers, including snow pants, and been very, very, very cold. So, yeah, it worked out good. I was happy with the turnout. I am looking forward to next year's horse parade. There are some things that we need to change as a board, potentially. But then again, we had a much better horse turnout than I was expecting. So, we'll see. Number 3. I canned more apples. I know you're sick of hearing about apples. I'm sick of dealing with apples, but I love eating the apples. So anyways, put up 13 quarts of chunks and 7 quarts of sauce. This is the first time we'd made the apple sauce out of the wine saps, and they were very good. We tend to like our applesauce a little more chunky and with a lot of tooth. And I know that like commercially made applesauce tends to be a little thinner and less, almost a little more grainy, but less like chunky at all. And this had a little bit more of that quality. It was a little thinner, and it's not quite as flavorful as the Jonathan's, but still very good. And I was happy with, even though these apples have been around for quite a while now, the quality of the fruit is still in decent condition for most of them. And we have had not a crazy amount of total waste, which is cool, because I don't know that we could have gotten, I mean, even if we had tried to prioritize these apples a little more, I don't know that we would have gotten to them yet. But anyways, so yeah, more sauce needs to be made. I think, well, there's some chunks waiting for me in the fridge to go can when I'm done with this. And then more sauce to be had. Yeah. So, number 4, last night when I took my daughter to Taekwondo, I talked to her instructor and committed myself that starting in January, I'm going to start going. Which means that I'm going to have to start, like, getting up off my butt and doing stuff. And I'm going to lose that crocheting time. But that's okay. Because half the time I can't crochet anyways because I have number 3 with me and he's fussing and unhappy. So, our schedule's going to have to change up starting in the new year. Because my husband, who usually is asleep during the time when I take my daughter to dance and Taekwondo, and then I have the youngest one, and our older son just stays home and watches movies in bed with Dad. Yeah, he's going to have both boys, so he's probably going to sleep in the morning on those days, which is really going to throw a wrench into things. But we'll figure it out, I'm sure. And we need to play with our schedule anyways. Maybe make an actual schedule, which I hate. I'm very bad at conforming to that, but I really think it's what I need to do. It's really what I need to do. And I know my husband's watching this going, yes, Kendra, it's really what you need to do. But yeah. So we'll work on that. And the 5th thing, I am attempting to feel holly jolly. Attempting to care that it's Christmas time. because, yeah, Christmas isn't my favorite time of year. In theory, I really like the holidays. In actuality, but, yeah, my family likes it. I'm trying to be on board. See? Happy, holly jolly. The way I've been trying to help with that is listening to Christmas music, which is kind of banned by my husband until after Thanksgiving. Well, Thanksgiving has occurred for the rest of the world, even if it has not occurred in this house. So the holiday tunes have begun. My favorite holiday song currently, and it was a favorite one last year. I like the song Mistletoe by Kobe Calais. It's on, well, the way we have it is from one of the Now That's What I Call Christmas CDs my husband got me a few years ago when I commented that I didn't have any Christmas music. Really, that was saved on the computer. So he bought me some CDs. He bought me that. He also bought me the Mariah Carey Christmas CD, which I had wanted since I was little. Every year I would go, I'm going to get it, and I never did. So I finally did. I realized that when I think I would really like a CD, I should just get it. Because so far I've been right. The last couple of years, we've finally been getting music that I've been saying I wanted for a really long time, and I've loved it all. Like last year for my birthday, my husband bought me the entire collection of Britney Spears music. He went on, if you go to secondspin.com, they have used CDs you can buy online, and they're very reasonable, and they frequently have sales and, minimal shipping, and you should look at it, secondspin.com. And yeah, so he bought me all of the Britney Spears CDs. This year, I've also, on a sale, they had a Second Spin. I finally bought the rest of the Hanson CDs, which I only had Middle of Nowhere. Which, for those of you that have heard of Hanson, you probably have heard of the song Mbop. If you are of my age group, that's probably the only reason you know who they are. But I really like their music. I actually ended up with their first CD by accident. My sister bought it for me, kind of mocking me because of the age I was, and they've been talking about Mbop on a radio show she listened to, so she bought the CD for me, being like, haha, this CD's dumb. And then I listened to it, and I really liked it. But then for whatever reason, I never got other CDs from them. But now I have them, and I really like them. So, yeah, I also, in that same batch with the Hanson CDs, I bought some CDs by Gavin DeGraw. He sang the theme song to One Tree Hill, if you remember that. And I also really liked his CDs. I also have acquired, in the last year or two, some more Jack Johnson CDs, which I really enjoy. And so I was telling my husband, so what this means, the only person that I keep saying that I really want CDs from and don't have is Jason Mraz. So apparently I should get Jason Mraz CDs because I've been right on every other person I've picked that I do like them. So, anyways, maybe that will be something I get this year. Though I don't think we're going to exchange music this year in any way. We have a lot of music and I haven't been listening to very much of it. I should listen to music more. Hang out on the internet less. But podcasts are so enticing. And there's something much more connective about watching a podcast because I see your little face there. If I'm watching you, whoever you are that has a podcast that I'm watching, I watch your little face and it's like you're talking to me. You're an adult in the same room as me who's an adult. But maybe not. I don't know. Do any of you have that happen? I don't know. That's why I like podcasts. But yes, I should probably say goodbye already. I have been blabbering on for a very long time, and hopefully I'll be able to compress this file and make it much smaller so we'll upload quickly-ish with my, in the sticks internet. But yes, thank you for watching if you have stuck with me this long, and then I love you more than cows and cheese and applesauce, and I hope that you have a good one, and please continue to make such nice work.